Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another weekly edition of All Aboard's Weekly Tips. I will be diving into a topic this week that people ask me about pretty much every single week. As everybody tries to grow their agency, as everybody tries to get their sales team to produce more, they ask themselves about a sales manager. And they say, well, I have a sales manager, or should I hire a sales manager? But ultimately, what it comes back to is, should my sales manager sell? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. I'm going to talk about what we do at Peachy Insurance. I'm going to talk about, maybe there is a better option for you as a player coach type model. And then I'll leave you with a few thoughts about sales management in general. Let's dive in. All right, y'all. So here we are. Here's the question. Should your sales manager sell? And ultimately, it depends. Kind of like most things, it depends. And so let's talk about what it depends on and maybe some of the things for you to think about as an agency owner as well. Okay. So the first thing that we want to think about is like, let me tell you what we do at Peachy Insurance. And so I can sit here and say, sales manager should sell or they shouldn't sell. But at the end of the day, I think I'd rather talk to you about like what does it look like when a sales manager doesn't sell versus what does it look like when they do sell. And I will tell you what I think the line is. At what point should a sales manager come off the phone and really focus on managing the team? And so what we do at Peachy is that we do not have our salespeople selling. And so let me move my face over here. You can see we do not have our manager selling at Peachy Insurance. Instead, they are there to really run the team, hold the team accountable, help the team with questions, and be that snowplow out front. So that's why I chose this image for this slide, is because really they are there to clear barriers so my salespeople can focus on the most important thing they can do, the thing that they're best at, the thing that they generally and hopefully enjoy the most, which is selling. Okay. So we do have a caveat. Every once in a while, we get down some salespeople. Our sales team is smaller than normal. And so right now, our sales team is only at like 9 people. We're hiring up and we're about to do this, but we have a little bit of a lull. So when our sales team is smaller and a manager doesn't have a full team, a lot of times we'll ask them to, either like call X dates or call monolines or help the other manager out. So they typically do not sell, but every once in a while, if we're in a pinch or we want to attack monolines or something like that and the team size is small, we will ask the manager to sell for part of their day. Okay. So when I say that their job is to make their team's job easier, I mean that. I really, really, really mean that. And so what I like to think about is, why would my salespeople be off the phone? Like, what are the reasons that the sales team would be off the phone? And once we have those reasons, I want my sales managers to basically remove those reasons, not because I want them to say, look, your only job here is to sell, even though that's true, like their job is to sell. I want my sales team to be free of distractions, free of minutia, because we know how hard it is to get like on track. And then all of a sudden something comes in, it throws us off track. We're caught up in the minutia. The whirlwind is killing us. And before you know it, it's 6 PM. We didn't hit our goals, right? So at Peach Insurance, we push our team to hit their goals every single day. And we expect them to do 15 quotes a day. That ends up being 6 to 8 households, depending on bundling. But that's like 1 an hour. And if a full home and auto quote takes 30, 40 minutes, you can see that they need to be on the phone for most of the day. So anything taking them off the phone other than their follow-ups or things that lead to sales is a problem. So the sales manager is there to clear those things out and make the job easier, efficient, and ultimately better, right? And so what do those things look like? I'll talk about that in a second, but people ask me all the time, well, what's your ratio? How many people to a manager? We run 8 salespeople to 1 manager. And we do that because ultimately at the end of the day, if you start getting to like 9 or 10 people, one, it's hard to coach that many people. It's hard to do one-on-ones with that many people. But also, the bigger the size of your team, the more likely you're going to have people with problems or having a bad day. If you have a team of 4 people, you've got a good shot of everybody having a good day. If you have 10 people, you can almost bet that like one of those 10 people is sick, in a bad mood, struggling with something personally, right? So it just starts to get a lot. And the emotional energy that goes into managing people and managing them well just starts to get too much. I would not go beyond 10 people to 1 manager. Maybe you have somebody who can really handle it. I've managed 15 people. I've managed 22 people. It's exhausting if you're doing it right and you're giving people the attention they need. It just feels like too much. At that point, you put another layer of management in. Okay. So one manager to 8 people. When people say, what do they do, right? Like these are the things that managers do to make the salesperson's job easier. They solve problems for agents. So the manager is not there to do everything for the salesperson, like an assistant or a processor, but they are there to solve complex problems that might slow them down. So if somebody has a question about eligibility and they're about to call RMBC or get on hold with RMBC, like I don't want them to do that. I want the manager to do that. So this person who's supposed to be selling items can keep on selling. Another thing we have managers do is that we will have them handle upset customers. So if a customer is upset about something that we screwed up, especially on new business, or somebody's trying to cancel, within the first couple of months, we'll send that back to the manager because there's a couple reasons for that. One, again, we don't want to take the salesperson off the phone. Second, when the customer talks to the manager, they say, okay, well, I'm talking to this person's boss, the person who upset me, and now I'm talking to their boss. Okay. That's also good. The other thing that's important is it prevents your salespeople from hiding non-compliant or inefficient things that they're doing. And so I've learned that lesson the hard way. So when we have problems, upset customers or concerns from customer service, it goes to the sales manager. The sales manager solves the problem. They clean up the mess and then they go back to the salesperson, address it, sometimes in writing if it's serious enough, and then they train the team. So that is ultimately the goal. Another piece is they examine rewrites. So we saw that our rewrites start to spike last year, and a lot of it was like, us putting the mortgagee clause in improper. And it's like, that's an easy fix. So they handle rewrites because we shouldn't be having rewrites in the first place. And then last, they look at those 0 to 6 month terminations, among other things, right? And of course, they're answering questions throughout the day. They're doing one-on-ones every single week. They're doing coaching, they're doing training, call monitoring, all types of things, So I don't want to say like this is the only thing they do. It's not, I could never encompass this in like a 4-minute slide, but these are some of the things they do. Okay. But this is really important. The goal of a manager who's not on the phone, and really any manager, but in our case, is to build trust first, hold people accountable next. It is hard to hold people accountable if you do not have a foundation of trust. And that's where weekly one-on-ones come in every week, 30 minutes. 10 minutes for you, 10 minutes for me, 10 minutes for us to talk about what happens between now and our next one-on-one. Even if the employee wants to talk about their dog or their hobbies, right? That's fine. That's their 10 minutes, and that builds trust, that builds relationships. You get the idea. Okay. So really it just comes down to one question. How can I make your job easier? Does your equipment suck? Do your hours suck? Like, what can we do to help you? Maybe someone says, I want to work a late shift. Okay. Well, a manager should come to, me or Peter and advocate for that person. Doesn't mean they're going to get what they want, but that manager should advocate for them. Okay. So let's talk about the player coach model. Got legendary player coach Jackie Moon over here on the right-hand side. One of the best to ever do it. Recognize, respect. So player coach model, when does it make sense? All right. I'll talk about that here in a second, but what's really important about the player coach model is that it's important to acknowledge and recognize that it's hard to do two things very well. It's easier to do one thing with full focus very well. It's hard to do two things with focus very well. So if we're talking about managing and selling, usually what happens is someone will over-index on selling, and the team gets no help, or they'll over-index on managing and you don't get the sales numbers you need. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that if you are going to have a player coach, a manager who also sells, that you block time for sales and management. Okay. I recommend in the morning, first 4 hours of the day, they sell. They have a quote goal, they have an activity goal, they have a goal just like every other person that they manage. In the afternoon, they do management, they do coaching, they do one-on-ones, they do any data entry or analytics or any type of thing you need them to do. Okay. If you do not block the time, you should not expect them to do both of these jobs well. It is on you as the owner, on you as the leader to set these expectations, set the goals, and make it clear and easy for them to understand. There should be no ambiguity. And if there is ambiguity, you should have a place where you have an understanding where you guys talk about it. Otherwise, you're just both people are going to be very frustrated, you and your manager, okay? If possible, do not have them compete with the sales team. So if they have individual sales goals and they're taking transfers, from your sales team, or they're picking up all the mailer calls or all the walk-ins and call-ins, that can breed resentment. So something you can do instead is you can say, hey, I'm going to give the manager the mail calls, but you know what? Everything they write goes towards the team goal, right? Maybe that's one way to do it. Or another thing, which what we do is we have them call like win backs or monolines or some of these other things that my team is not working, because I don't want my team to be like, wow, I have less leads because the manager hit their goal. So ultimately, right, think about that. Make sure that either the goals align. So when the sales manager wins, everybody wins, or have the sales manager work something different. That way it doesn't feel like the sales team's getting something taken from them. Okay. I think this is important too. Like you've got to give the manager a path to stop selling by replacing themselves. So a lot of times when someone becomes a sales manager, they want to get off the phone, and that's okay, right? Like it's a grindy job. It's like a lot of things to deal with every day for years at a time on the phone. So you want to get off the phone, but sometimes you can't sacrifice all the production, right? But give them a path. So you might say, hey, we have 4 salespeople today. It's 50 items per person. Well, I need 25 out of you. Let's hire another person. And when we're back to 200, you can come fully off the phone or however you want to do it. Right. So give them a path, because otherwise they're not really going to feel the growth that you're trying to give them. So, and this kind of goes back to what I said before. Make sure that expectations are extremely clear, daily responsibilities to avoid confusion and inefficiency. It might take a lot of communication at first, over communicate, but make sure it's very clear. Otherwise, everyone's just going to get frustrated. Okay. So, with that being said, this edition of All Aboard's weekly newsletter is brought to you by the podcast of my good friend Bo Vincent. So Conviction of a Leader is a great podcast if you are looking to develop your own leadership skills or you're trying to develop a leader within your agency. Bo has talked to a ton. He has a massive backlog of episodes, hours upon hours upon hours, where you can listen to Bo interview leaders about their leadership journey, the mistakes they've made, the goals they have, the things that they're trying to get better at right now. I could not recommend it more. I've been a guest on the show. I'm going to be a guest on the show again. But if you are looking for a free resource to get leadership advice, check out a Conviction of a Leader podcast with Bo Vincent, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find Conviction of a Leader. Okay. So let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. I want to leave you with a few thoughts. Okay. So the first thought is, if you have less than 6 people, I recommend going with the player coach model. Okay. If you have less than 6 people, player coach model, because as you have less and less people, a manager's salary is going to hurt you more and more. The more people you have, that salary gets spread out across more people. So 6 people or less, player coach. 7 or more, get them off the phone so they can focus on it, right? You can make an argument. If you've got 5 or 6, you get them off the phone. Every agency is different. Use your judgment. Okay. It's not a hard and fast rule. Second, just like Prison Mike here over on the right, they need to be respected and well liked. In the office, everyone's always like, oh man, they're always rolling their eyes at Michael Scott's shenanigans, right? But at the end of the day, every time it comes time for Michael Scott to make a sale, he does it. When it comes time for him to stand up for his employees, he does it. When it comes time for people to say, look, we can get rid of Michael Scott, they say no, they love Michael Scott. Okay. So even though he is, a kind of a clown show on The Office, right? He's well respected and liked. If your manager is not well respected and liked, that's going to be a problem. It's going to be hard to get the team to go where they need them to go. It's going to make it hard for you to let go of the sales team. It's going to make it a lot of drama for you, right? So if they're not respected or well liked, one, ask yourself, do you have the right person as a sales manager? If you're looking to promote somebody, make sure they're respected and well liked. And if they're liked but not respected, or respected and not really liked, well, you can fix that. Right? It takes time. That's where one-on-ones come in. You got to build trust. You got to advocate. Okay. I think I ask this question to people all the time, and this is a conversation I used to have when I was a sales manager. They'd say, "Oh, Andrew, you can sell 100 items a month. I need you to sell." And then I said, "Look, I can either sell 100 items or I can manage 15 salespeople." And ultimately, what I said was, it's harder for me to sell 100 items than it is for me to get 10 people up 10 items. And that's typically true. So people sometimes will say, well, look, I need a sales manager to pay for themselves. Well, that's fine, right? Like you need to get the production per person up. Okay. I asked the question, can your manager walk the walk? If your manager can't sell anything, or has never done the job successfully, it's going to be hard for them to earn trust. Doesn't mean they can't, but it's going to be hard. And the reality is, like, if they're teaching the team, how to quote and sell and bind insurance, and they don't know how to do that, it's going to limit how much they can help the team when things get into a bind, right? Which means it might be you going in to help them, or you have to get, another salesperson now that's inefficient, right? So can they walk the walk? They don't have to be the best salesperson in the world, but they should know and have like a decent sales track record. Okay. Ask yourself if you're truly letting your sales manager be a manager. Are they picking their own people? Like, are they hiring and firing their own people? Are they putting people on performance plans? Are they able to push back to you, or do you just kind of dictate everything? Because if you're really not letting them be a manager, don't give them the responsibility of being a manager, but not the benefit or the autonomy. Okay. It's just frustrating for everybody. I've been in that situation where they kept calling me the manager early in my career, and I'd want to fire somebody because they didn't fit our culture, and I'd get pushback from the owner. All it did was just make me not really give a shit, if I'm being honest. So be careful of that. And then here's what I'll say. If you want to scale, like if you want to scale your agency, you got to have middle managers. You cannot do it alone. A lot of times people's first manager is a sales manager. And so what I'll say to you is, like, if you are looking to hire a sales manager, and you don't have the right person, talk to me. I can point you to some recruiting companies. There are some out there that I've pointed people to in the past that have gotten them amazing sales managers. Okay. If you have a sales manager who needs training, and like, come talk to me. Like, my sales trainer does some of that on the side. He has limited availability, so just let me know and we'll go from there. But there's also, Bo Vincent is also there, and Bo Vincent has a leadership academy. So check these things out. There's a lot of resources. But until next time, like, ultimately what I want to say is, having a sales manager important. Should they sell? Should they not sell? It's up for you to decide. If you have more questions, let me know. Happy to answer them. Just shoot me an email. Thanks, y'all.